So, welcome to Saturday evening at Abhayagiri. Change in weather, cool, rainy, very pleasant, and fewer people, some of the monastic community away, and not as many guests staying here as we've had in the past. So, it's a very strong sense of quiet and ease, well-being through the community. There's been a couple of morning reflections past 2 days that have centered around the theme of harmony and balance in the path of practice. And I thought to add my 2 cents worth along those lines. Ajahn Sudhiro, in his morning reflection a couple of days ago, talked about the beauty of many parts harmonizing together into a whole, using the example of a symphony with many different players, instruments, all working and operating at the same time, kind of doing their individual pieces, but as part of a greater whole, that the final result can be an incredibly moving experience in the music realm when all of the parts are well practiced, well honed, and all the instruments are well tuned, the players are well practiced, all coming together into something that can be quite exhilarating, quite moving. And just emphasizing how that relates to the path of practice. That many different things have to come together into a whole for the practice to work. All the parts have to be working with each other in harmony. The analogy that comes to mind for me, maybe not quite so inspiring, but is just from my days before I was a monk. One of my hobbies, I guess, or pastimes was bicycling. I was kind of an avid bicycle tourist, not a racer, but just bicycle touring. And part of it was getting to learn how to maintain, repair, fix, adjust a bicycle, and took some courses in that. And one of the things that one can learn how to do in bicycle maintenance is what's called truing the wheel. And it's you've got your 2 wheels on your bike, of course, and you can take the wheels off. And as you know, the bicycle has its hub and its spokes that go out to the rim where the tire is attached. But some of you may or may not know, all of those spokes are adjustable, and they screw in from the hub to the rim. And they can be loose or they can be tight. So the idea is to have them just in perfect tension. If there's some spokes that are too loose or some spokes that are too tight, then the wheel will be what's called out of true. It won't turn in a very smooth way. It'll kind of wobble within the bicycle frame, and the bike doesn't work very well. So you have a truing stand, which is you take the wheel off and you put it into this truing stand, and you can visually watch as you spin the wheel whether it's in true or not. And if it's wobbling a little bit, you tighten the spoke that's loose or loosen the spoke that's tight. And it's there's a lot of spokes, so it takes a while to do that until you get the wheel turning nice and straight and smooth without any kind of wobbling. So I remember once I decided to take a bicycle trip to England. It was my first foray I'd done a lot of bicycling in the States, but going to England. And so got my bicycle all set up, and there were several of us going on this trip, and got it all maintained, fixed the brakes, and lubricated everything, got the tension in the chain nice, and all the derailleurs perfectly adjusted, all those kinds of things that you do, untrued the wheels to make sure they were spinning, and then took the bike apart, packed it up, and shipped it with myself on the plane. 3 other friends joined me later on, and we were going to go bicycle through the countryside of England for a few weeks. And of course, what you have to do, though, is first land in London at the airport and somehow get yourself out to the country. And we were staying in London for a few nights before doing that. And there was just this one little hitch of getting from where we were across London to the train station to get out of London. And none of us had ever bicycled, much less driven, in a country where you go on the left side of the road. London's a very, very big city. So it was quite daunting when we started out to get across town. And if we hadn't trued up our wheels and gotten everything in perfect working order, it would have been a disaster. It was almost a disaster anyway, just as you're entering these huge avenues with, I don't know how many, hundreds, thousands of cars, all moving at a very rapid rate and going around roundabouts and entering and leaving and dodging. And we had not a clue what we were doing, but we had more, I guess we were all kind of stupid enough that didn't worry about it too much. We just, if we were all a little bit older and wiser, we probably wouldn't have been doing it. But just getting in there and just basically jumping into the traffic and moving, but having to keep this sense of clarity, mindfulness, alertness to everything that was going on around, this all-around awareness of traffic coming in from the right, traffic coming in from the left, entering a roundabout, going around, getting off of it without killing ourselves or getting somebody else killed. But if the bicycle hadn't been tuned up perfectly, if the wheels weren't turning perfect, we wouldn't have made it through to the other side and out of the city into what we would call relative freedom. So the importance of having a vehicle to take us where we want to go to safety is really important. It's important to have that vehicle working just as perfectly as you can make it. So that's the analogy that comes to my mind in thinking about the path as well, and how all the parts of the path have to be working together in harmony, in precision in a certain way, for us to receive the results that we want to receive. There's a really wonderful sutta teaching that popped into my mind in the past day or two as we were having these morning reflections that points to this aspect of the path of needing to be in harmony, called the Great 40. It's in the Majjhima Nikaya. And it's a very clear exposition of how the Eightfold Path works together. The factors of the Eightfold Path have to work in harmony with each other to support each other. It's not just a separate series of qualities that we need to develop that somehow work individually, and we need all 8 to do it. But that they actually support and feed upon each other too. As the phrase goes in the sutta, the various factors run and circle around each other. And the Buddha starts out the teaching. I'm not sure what the context might have been. You can picture maybe that the monks that were gathered around were talking about various aspects of the practice, maybe right Samma Samadhi, right concentration, right collectedness, right composure, maybe better translation for samadhi. And then the Buddha starts out the sutta with, bhikkhus, listen, I'm going to talk with you about noble right concentration, samma samadhi. And and then he says, with its supports and requisites. So not just all alone by itself. And basically, he says in his introduction that samma samadhi is real noble right concentration, is dependent on the existence and practice of the other 7 aspects of the path. Right view, right intention, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and then leading to and supporting right concentration. What is samma samadhi, he asks? He says samma samadhi is this unification of mind with these other 7 factors in concert with it. Unification of mind. And then he goes on to develop that theme using, going through all the factors of the path and talking about how various factors revolve around and support each other, starting with right view. Right view comes first, and expounds a little bit on the both the mundane and transcendent aspects of right view. And I think it's worth reviewing some of these parts of the path in their whole, kind of stepping back, zooming out the map a bit, and seeing how the overall path works together. And just we chant about the Noble Eightfold Path, and these factors are mentioned. So it's right there in the chanting book when we do chant that. But it's worth mentioning again just to see the breadth of how we have to train this mind to receive the results that we're seeking, the freedom that we're seeking. It's not just an application of mind to a meditation technique. Sometimes you get that impression as the practices come to the West, that it's all about meditation. And, of course, that's a significant part of it. But there's all of these factors have to be operating in conjunction with each other for us to really realize the full benefits of the path. It can't be a piecemeal approach. And so the right view, the Buddha defines, talks about the mundane right view. And this is the part of the Eightfold Path that's a categorical teaching. It's like, this is the view that we need to basically adopt and understand to be able to correctly apply the rest of the path. And the rest of the path tends to be more instructive attitudes or practices, body, speech, and mind, that we pick up to train the mind. But the right view, is the context. It's why we're doing it, and it's some of the whys about how it actually works. So it's something that is a categorical teaching in a sense. And the factors of mundane right view that the Buddha says these are things to adopt as an actual view, and develop an understanding around are the fact that the wording is sometimes a bit cryptic, so I'll just use more common language to describe some of the aspects of right view. But that there is the results of giving and generosity, that's a major player in how we develop the heart, develop the mind. And probably one of the most important aspects of right view is there is the results of good and bad action, essentially establishing the importance of the law of karma, that what we do, what we think, how we speak, has an effect. There is a result from any form of action, body, speech, and mind, and it will affect our hearts, affect our minds, not to mention the world around us. But it has a very strong effect, and that we do have a choice of how we want to live through our body, speech, and mind, for better or for worse, and that how we develop those expressive aspects of our life will have significant consequences, again, for better, for worse. So results of past or results of good and bad action. He also establishes the notion of beings being reborn, the other realms, and the fact that there are beings who are accomplished in the world, who have attained to this understanding deeply, and who have realized the benefits of the path. So that essentially there are beings alive who have walked the path and realized the results. And then also that there's other aspects of right view, but essentially those being the most significant mundane ones, and then the transcendent view of deeply penetrating understanding and realizing the Four Noble Truths, the origin of suffering, the cause, the cessation, and the path leading to the cessation. So this is a categorical teaching, this is a right view that is essential for us to understand if it's going to lead us in the right direction. We can meditate and we can practice morality and speak well, have a right livelihood, but if we don't have any context for why we're doing this, it won't help us reach the goal. And right view has its supports of right mindfulness and right effort. Right effort, right mindfulness run in circle around right view. The right mindfulness to bring to mind what right view is, to consider it, to evaluate our experience within that context. That's the right mindfulness, remembering to do that, bringing that up for contemplation, bringing that up for examination. And the right effort is to abandon wrong view, which would deny those particular aspects of, or ignore the aspects of right view, and then to develop the right view as we know it. So right mindfulness, right effort revolve around right view, pulling them together. And then the Buddha goes on through right intention, samma sankappa, and right speech, right action, right livelihood, in the same manner, defining them, and then talking about how right mindfulness, right effort, and right view are working in concert with each of those other aspects of the path to fully develop them. That you have to have right mindfulness to remember what right thought or right intention is, to consider if you're increasing the wholesome qualities of right intention, decreasing the unwholesome ways of wrong intention, and that those are the development of the view. So right intention or right thought being the simplification of our lives, the honoring and developing the renunciation, making things simpler for ourselves so that we're not caught up in material acquisitiveness, and trying to take out that drive towards sensory gratification as our only means of obtaining happiness, and of abandoning abandoning ill will and abandoning cruelty and developing non-ill will and non-cruelty. These are the mental aspects that come from right view, our understanding that what we think has a great impact on our lives and on our practice. So we want to establish this right intention, this right attitude for simplification, renunciation, non-ill will, and non-cruelty. Remembering to do that, remembering to establish those positive qualities and abandon their negative counterparts, and developing the effort to keep doing that. So this is preparing the mind. This is setting the mind aspect up based on that right view. And there's the aspect of right speech, the 4 aspects of wholesome speech that we try and develop, and the 4 unwholesome courses of speech that we try and abandon. The unwholesome ones being lying, harsh speech, tale-bearing, talking about others in a negative way, and also just frivolous speech, chatter, idle chatter. So abandoning those with right effort, remembering to abandon those with right effort, right mindfulness, and establishing ourselves in truthfulness and in gentle speech and in circumspection about how we're talking and referring to others, and just quelling that aspect of mind that just wants to kind of natter on and on and on. Quality of speech like that. We want to abandon that. So this also settles and soothes the mind. Same with right action, non-harming, non-killing, not taking advantage of people sexually, not indulging in sensuality in a harmful way, and not stealing, not taking things that aren't given to us. All of these with using, again, right effort, right mindfulness to remember and to apply the effort in the right direction. Right livelihood. In the chanting, it's not really well fleshed out. It just says, engaging in right livelihood, abandoning wrong livelihood. And the Buddha expands on that a little bit for lay practitioners, people who are in the world earning a living. Talks about 5 forms of wrong livelihood to abandon that are trade in living beings, trade in poisons, being a butcher, like selling, killing animals for sale as meat. I can't remember what the other 2 are. There's the other 2. Do you remember?
Intoxicants and weapons.
Intoxicants and weapons, thank you. I was blanking on those. Not dealing in intoxicants and not dealing in weapons. So those are forms of lay livelihood that would be considered wrong. And for the monastics, it's a little more circumscribed, but very clear too, even though we wouldn't be engaging in any of those kinds of activities anyway. With the monastic vocation, the Buddha's injunction for monastics is to not engage in cajoling or manipulating lay people in any way for gain, to try and that we're not supposed to at all try and seek out gain in any kind of deceptive way, or belittling people, shaming them into giving us something, or to engage in any kind of trading up, have a certain requisite and trying to trade up for it, get something a little better. So the Buddha called that wrong livelihood for a monastic. So we're all encouraged to develop a sense of contentment and ease of mind through right livelihood, how we live our daily life. So all of these then come together to form a whole of mind training. It's not just a matter of developing a meditation practice and kind of developing a certain kind of acumen where we develop very high and powerful states of mind that then plop us into to complete freedom. It doesn't work that way. It's a complete training of our body, our speech, and our mind, and they all have to be in harmony for the path to really come to full fruition, for the wheel to turn so smoothly that it takes us where we want to go. Can't have a sevenfold path or a sixfold path that just takes us all the way. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of a little bit of a side trip down a couple of the factors kind of popped into my mind this morning too. After the morning reflection and before the work period started, I was walking from one place outside to another and got a kind of a very spontaneous, very fast, what I call a drive-by question. Somebody popped up and said, "Ajahn." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Are you better at concentration or are you better at mindfulness?" And it was kind of one of these quick moving comments, and as I was moving past, and my response at that time was, "Well, you can't separate the two." And it kind of made me think a little bit about how some of the training and teachings have come to the West, and there is some teachers have kind of made some what I would call strong separations, or stronger than one would like separations between things like right mindfulness and right concentration. And I think that flavor comes through sometimes in some of the teachings, and I find it more useful to consider those two things as much more connected to each other rather than as separate ways of developing the practice, or separate aspects of the practice. Because sometimes you hear the teaching that that mindfulness is what you do to develop insight. So you're mindful of all the aspects of what comes through your experience, judging it against the qualities of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and that this is right mindfulness that results in insight, vipassana. And that mindfulness is what you do to develop vipassana. And also that right concentration, development of a focused attention, fixed attention on a narrow object, such as the breath at the tip of the nose or at the belly, or a very single-pointed narrow object. This is right concentration, and that it's essentially equated with the samatha practice. This is the settling. And so that you have these two separate activities that one engages in, depending on whether one wants to develop concentration and calm, or whether one wants to develop insight. And then the whole debate that then evolves from that of, do you have to fully develop right concentration, or just so much of it, defining it in the context of jhanas and attainments of those kinds of more sublime states of mind. How much of it do you need to get insight? Or can you just develop insight by itself without right concentration? And you get lost. Many of us have gotten lost in this quagmire of what to do. You know, should I practice vipassana? Should I practice samatha? Should I practice right concentration? Should I practice right mindfulness? When to do either? And to me, it kind of just, that whole approach is very confusing and also very separating. It kind of removes them from their innate relationship with each other, which is, I think, more in line with the teachings as a whole. If you reconsider how to approach understanding these, to me, reframing it in a way that I've understood from some other teachers has been extremely helpful, in that our practice of right mindfulness, particularly if you read the Satipatthana clearly and carefully, you'll see that if we use these frames of reference of the body, the feelings, the mind, and certain dhammas as our basic frame of contemplation, these are themes for contemplation, frames of references, as Ajahn Jeff uses the term, that any one of those, all of those, will develop both samatha and vipassana. They inherently, contemplating them correctly, will induce both a sense of settledness of mind and also insight. And you'll see through the Satipatthana that all those aspects will come out, and that there's always a description of the contemplation itself, and then a separate section after each one that talks about how to use it to develop insight. So you're using mindfulness, right mindfulness, to develop both calm and insight. And that then the natural result of calm and insight coming together and being developed at the same time is the coalescence of the mind, the unification of the mind around a single theme. And this is what we would call the beginnings of samma samadhi, the mind collecting, composing itself unwaveringly and quite contentedly around a single theme that results in both calm and insight. And when the mind becomes very firmly established around that theme, around that Satipatthana theme, then we can say that right samma samadhi is starting to emerge. So it's not a thing we have to do. Concentration isn't something we have to do. It's the result, it's the coming together of right mindfulness. And they support each other, and the more firmly established we become, the more we want to, or the more we're able to stay with the themes and take them to their full development. So they can't be separated. None of these can be separated. They all work with each other and support each other. So it is kind of like a symphony. I do like that analogy, that we have all of these what seem like individual aspects of the path working their own way, but the music doesn't really happen without all of the instruments playing together and attuned with each other, listening carefully and examining over and over again where there might be some sort of imbalance, and truing it up, tightening here, loosening there. Are we neglecting one aspect of our practice, or several aspects of our practice? Are we ignoring our speech, or are we engaging in various kinds of wrong action that upset the balance? Are we not putting in any kind of effort at all into developing the mind? Do we need to firm up here and loosen up there? Are we too tight? Are we overly extending? Are we putting ourselves out of balance in that way? So constantly reviewing the bigger picture and seeing where it is that we can adjust, where it is that we can tune up our instrument in a certain area, where we can tighten up or loosen up the spokes to make the whole process run true. The word samma, as in all of the parts of the Eightfold Path, which we translate as right, samma samadhi, right concentration, right collectedness, also could be used as the word true. It's the true way. It makes it all run smoothly and in harmony with the other, just like the truing of the wheel. So it's a full path, and we need to bring it together as a whole to realize the full benefits and take it to its conclusion, which is inevitable if we put all of these factors together, and we need all of these factors. And the Buddha points out that there's, he doesn't go as far as to say that there isn't any other way to do it, or that there is no other spiritual path that will take us to the same goal. But he basically said if all of these eightfold factors aren't present, then it won't work. They all have to be present for it to take one to the final goal that the Buddha describes. And he did mention in one place that as far as he could see, there wasn't any other practice outside of his dispensation that included all of these factors. If there were, then it would be legitimate. But it's a very profound teaching and very complete, and it's what we need to find our way to the end of suffering. So just a few thoughts to keep in mind, zooming out the map a bit again, looking at the overall picture and where do we need to adjust our efforts. So I'll leave that for this evening's contemplation.